A warm welcome to everyone. My name is Sandra Verdel, Project Manager and Digital Engagement and Head of the online team of the Mauritshuis, and I'm extremely proud to welcome you today to the first Gigapixel museum in the world. But before we enter the museum, I would like to start with a short introduction. Usually when I'm speaking at live events, I always start by asking the audience to raise their hand if they've ever heard of the Mauritshuis before. These online sessions make interactive questioning a bit hard, but by now I can make an educated guess. It's not the majority of you. And however, the name of our museum doesn't always ring a bell. I know for sure that you are very familiar with our collection. Until today, you just didn't know that it was on display at the Mauritshuis The Hague. So, we are located in The Hague. That's in the Netherlands, right in the historical center, just 30 minutes by train from Amsterdam Airport. The Prime Minister is our next door neighbor, who sometimes like to personally welcome our guests. She is our biggest rock star, Vermeer's girl with a pearl earring. But I'm really sure that you also know him, Rembrandt. We house one of the biggest Rembrandt collections in the world, including this latest self-portrait and his anatomy lessons. Can you imagine that he painted this when he was only 25 years old? It marked his breakthrough as a master painter in Amsterdam. And maybe you also know this little bird, the goldfinch. He's one of the main characters of this Pulitzer Prize novel. And you might also have heard of Jan Steen and Frans Hals. And I hope that you will once in your life have a moment to visit this beautiful painting by Clara Peters. It's one of the many female painters that we have on show. And for this painting, two world famous Flemish masters combined their strengths, Rubens and Bruegel. To sum it up, we kind of have this bucket list worthy collection you have to see at least once in your life. But to be honest, if it was up to me, that once in your life should be sooner than this. Where the old generation of traditional museum visitors knows how to find our museum perfectly, there's a whole generation of younger and not so traditional museum visitors that could sometimes use a little help to pass this majestic golden arrowed fence and enter our museum. And that's why we constantly seek for new ways to digitally interact with our audience. Because secretly, she is one of the biggest influencers in the world. And let's be honest, he produced more selfies than the average teenager does today. So when COVID got hold of Europe and museums had to close from one day to the next, suddenly online communications were our only way to communicate with the world outside. And it made sure that our online ambitions reached a whole new level. But at the same time, we knew we had to be critical. So we selected two selection criteria to see what new projects we could do and what we couldn't. In the first place, new digital solutions had to be sustainable. If we would develop something, it should also be interesting in a world past COVID. Oh, how naive we were back then, believing that this would pass over very soon, but I still believe it is true. And new techniques should never be a goal itself. I strongly believe in new techniques to reach out to a new audience. But then in my belief, at the same time, a question like, well, shouldn't we do something with AR? That is never the right starting point. Techniques shouldn't be used as a fun trick, but it can be used as a tool to serve your goal. So when one of our partners, the Spanish MedPixel company, approached us with a new technique of capturing entire rooms in gigapixel quality, we immediately saw a few opportunities. Yes, this was a great way to share the museum, a museum that had to close in real life. So during the COVID closures, it was a wonderful tool. But it was also a great tool when the museum is open again, We are fully aware that visiting our majestic city palace might be an obstacle for audiences that doesn't always visit the museum. And by introducing this virtual environment on schools, in nursing homes, community centers, and by making it freely available for the entire internet to use, we hope to reduce obstacles and increase accessibility and facilitate the interaction between people and our collection. And after this presentation, I hope you go wander around in the virtual museum yourself. And hopefully you will notice that technique was certainly not a goal itself. It's absolutely unique to have an entire museum digitized in gigapixel size. But when you wander around, you will not see the technique. It worked very intuitive and it's easy to work with. And hopefully what stays with you after your visit is not the technique itself about capturing rooms in a razor sharp image quality, but I hope you will remember the paintings itself and the amazingly engaging stories written. Technique is, in my opinion, in this case, it's not the goal itself. But enough said. I would like to enter the museum with you. So, welcome to the Mauritshuis in gigapixel size. During the first days of the first lockdown, a special digitizing robot, the Mad Pixel Rob, meticulously captured every centimeter, every plinth, and every corner of the museum to ensure that no detail would be missed when you enter the Gigapixel museum. So, for example, you see that we've digitized the entire museum, also the wonderful ceilings. And to show you all the different options of this virtual museum, I would like to take you downstairs to the room of our Flemish masters. Let me show you around a bit so you can experience the zoom level. For example, take a look at these frames and see how sharp it is. Here we stand in front of one of my favorite paintings in the virtual museum. It's a palace painting Campaspe by Willem van Haag. And as you can see, some of the paintings, 36 in total, are marked with these zoom signs. And by clicking on the button, you open up a pop-up screen with a couple of storytelling features. People can, of course, zoom in by themselves and discover all the paintings. But we also offer general information about the painting. And we also have this audio tour to show you around. And something I would like to dig a bit deeper into. This is our storytelling tool. The painting you see here, it depicts a room full of art. And although this collection that's shown here, in real life, it has never existed. But the great thing is, a lot of these paintings, they actually still are in museums around the world. And take a look at this Rubens, for example, the Battle of the Amazons. Today it hangs in the Alte Pinakothek in Munich. And The Moneylender and His Wife by Quentin Massijs is one of the highlights in the Louvre today. And this Rubens and Bruegel can now be found at the Musée de la Chasse in Paris. And even I discovered things in this painting I have never seen in the Royal Museum. For example, in the foreground, let me zoom into it. We see this story from the classical antiquity. it shows the painter Apelles painting the portrait of Campaspe, the lover of Alexander the Great. And when Alexander saw the beautiful painting, he immediately realized that the painter must be in love with his wife, and vice versa, his wife was also in love with the painter. So this is something that only happened in classical antiquity. Alexander the Great decided to, in exchange for the portrait, to give his wife to the painter Apelles. It's a love story. I've seen this painting many times, but only when I visited the painting in the Gigapixel Museum, I noticed that the lady that's standing beside Campaspe is holding a print. And this print tells the story of the Paris judgments. It's the start of the Trojan Wars, and it's the biggest love story of the classical antiquities. And take a look at the elegant stance you see here that Van Haag used for Paris. And now I zoom out and take a look. Take a look at the pose of the painter Apelles. Van Haag painted him in exactly the same pose as Paris to emphasize the love story that is in front of us. And I have never seen this detail in a museum before. But since you're looking at a painting in a total different way online and you can zoom in, you can see so many more details. So the first time I went to the museum, I immediately went to this painting again and saw all these details that I had never seen before. Now, I would like to take you to Rubens and Bruegel, two painters who worked together to create this panel. This painting also has a storyline. And it shows the story. It explains what parts of the painting were painted by Rubens and what part of the painting were painted by Bruegel, so that you understand how the painting was made. And here, in this painting, we also have added infrared images. And this takes you below the surface of the painting. It reveals the pentimenti that the painters created during the process. For example, I'm zooming in at the position of the dogs here. You can see that originally Bruegel positions the dogs a bit higher on the painting. These are great things to share with the public. This is not something you can see in the museum, but here online you can share these amazing details. And in storyline, you can also add information about this so people can see it and understand it. Now, I would like to take you upstairs. And as you can see, these arrows make sure that you can walk upstairs. But we can also use this map to jump upstairs. Here we jump upstairs. And I would like to take you. You can also go to another room or use the arrows. And now we've entered our Vermeer room. At the Mauritshuis, we've got 3 Vermeers. Diana and her nymphs, a view of Delft, and of course, Vermeer's Girl with a Pearl Earring. Have you ever been so close before? You've probably seen why this is also an amazing tool for teachers, for educational purposes. I don't know if you ever heard about it, but Vermeer used only 2 brushstrokes to paint his famous Pearl. People tell it to you when you're at the museum, you can read about it, but here in gigapixel size, you can actually see it. There's no hook, there's nothing, it's only 2 dots of paint that suggest that really famous earring of the girl. Also something that you don't notice at the museum. Here you can see the autograph of the painter. And also here we can switch to infrared again. And back to normal. As you understand, I can show you around for hours and hours, but I believe the best way to discover it is well, it's just by wandering around yourself. You can visit our website or download the second Canvas Mauritshuis app in App Store or Google Play. Just search for Mauritshuis and you'll find 2 apps. Our regular app for visiting the museum and the second Canvas Mauritshuis app. It also allows you to enter this museum or just go to our website. Well, what are we using this tool for? First of all, everyone is welcome to wander around the digital museum themselves. The Gigapixel is freely accessible for entire world to use. People can use it to prepare their visits. They can relive their visit or find out if the museum the Mauritshuis is a museum that suits their interests. You can learn about the paintings without having to visit the museum. And secondly, we offer live guided tours through the virtual museum by one of our museum guides. You can book these tours online, and together with your friends or family or colleagues, every participant in your group will receive a link, and they can follow the tour on their own computer together with a group. You can ask our guides questions about the paintings you see, and well, it's a real tour through the museum, but in a virtual world. Thirdly, behind the scenes, we are currently preparing some pre-recorded themes tours. Visitors will be able to follow these tours at any moment they'd like. They just need to buy an entrance code in advance, enter the entrance code in the Gigapixel Museum, and then a pre-recorded tour starts, take you around through the museum and show you, for example, all the highlights of the museum. But we're also offering an animal tour through all the animal paintings, a flower tour, also a yoga session. So looking at paintings in a total different way, doing your yoga moves, all kinds of things that we're preparing now. And a fourth option, the MadPixel company is currently also working on a version for educational purposes. A school is offered their own CMS, and students can upload their own stories into the CMS, and together with an entire class, they can create their own Gigapixel tour. It's great to do with schools, with students. We see all kinds of opportunities. So we're really looking forward to this option as well. Well, you might also be wondering about the statistics, the numbers. I can share with you in December, last December 2021, 11,320 visitors visit the Gigapixel Museum. And for us, that's a wonderful number compared to the average of 35,000 people that visit the real Mauritshuis in a month. So you can say about a third of the visitors that are currently visiting us are online visitors. And I expect we see even if at the moment that the museum was open, again, still a lot of people visit the Gigapixel Museum. Also a wonderful number. The average duration of a session was almost 6 minutes, and that is a lot. You know, when people visit a website, there's a big group of people that just look around and leave within 20 seconds. So, but there are also people that stay for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes, even up to an hour, wandering around. And I love to see that people are using this tool so much. And also great, we can see in the numbers that the audience is very international. It's not just the Dutchies that find us. It's also an enormous group of Chinese people, Indonesia. I saw a lot of Europe, of course. So we can also see that people are using this tool when they can't visit the museum because they live on the other side of the world. We have a really a great group of fans in Brazil. They also visit the museum, the virtual museum a lot. To conclude, I would like to end with a question that I'm often asked. Aren't you afraid no one will ever go to the real life museum anymore? And to be honest, I strongly believe the opposite is true. This tool helps people to get to know the museum. Once you have seen the Gigapixel Museum and all the amazing paintings up close, well, in fact, you only desire one more thing, and that's seeing it all in real life. To illustrate, when I started working for the Mauritshuis, the old website only contains these small post-stamp sized images of paintings. Because back then, people were afraid screen-sized images would prevent people from going to a museum. Oh, well, now we know that's not it. Seeing a painting on the screen is nothing compared to seeing a real museum. And this is the same thing. Sharing your collection online, in my belief, will only increase the accessibility, and it will only boost your actual museum visit. Thank you very much.